Hello, students. The modern history of India is directly or indirectly related to many important events in the world history. Various available sources in primary and secondary make the study of modern history very informative and precise. Let's see the sources of modern India. An abundance of historical material is available for studying India from the mid 18th century to the mid 20th century. In constructing the history of modern India, priority needs to be given to archives. Archives refers to a collection of historical records and documents, usually primary source documents, that is, those documents that have been created as a necessary part of some activity administrative, legal, social, or commercial. They are unique original documents, not consciously written or created to convey information to a future generation. An important part of archives relating to modern India are the official records, that is, the papers of government agencies at various levels. The records of the East India Company provide a detailed account of trading conditions during the period of 1600 to 1857. When we see the sources, there are of two types: written sources and material sources. Written sources are letters, copper plates, stone inscription, and that other things. Material sources are coins, old structure, pillars, rocket, caves, and that other things. Now we'll see that written sources. After the advent of the printing press, numerous books were published in different languages. Hence, the people began to acquire knowledges easily in the fields of art, literature, history, and science. Written sources include the literatures, travel accounts, diaries, autobiographies, pamphlets. Pamphlets are small booklets, government documents, and manuscripts. Manuscripts are handwritten books. Now, archives. This is the place where historical documents are preserved. The National Archives of India (NAI) is located in New Delhi. It is the chief storehouse of the records of Government of India. It has main source of information for understanding past administrative machinery as well as a guide to the present and future generation related to all matters. It contains authentic evidence for knowing the political, social, economic, cultural, and scientific life and activities of people of India. It is one of the largest archives in Asia. Now, material sources. Many paintings and statues are the main sources of modern Indian history. They give us a lot of information and the achievements of national leaders and historical personalities. Historical buildings like St. Francis Church at Cochin, St. Louis Fort at Pondicherry, St. George Fort in Madras, St. David Fort in Kadalur, India Gate, Parliament House, President House in New Delhi, etc., are different styles and techniques of Indian architecture. Other objects and materials of religious, cultural, and historical value are collected and preserved in museums. These museums help to preserve and promote our cultural heritage, cultural heritage. The National Museum in Delhi is the largest museum in India, which established in 1949. Now, advent of Europeans. During the Middle Ages, trade between Europe and India was carried on along several routes. However, the old trading routes came under Turkish control after the Ottoman conquest of Asia Minor and the capture of Constantinople in 1453. By this time, many West European countries began looking after new and safer sea routes. The lead was taken by the Portuguese. Later, it was followed by the Dutch, the Danes, the French, and the British. Now we'll see that Portugal. Portugal is a West European country. Its capital is Lisbon. The people of Portugal are called as Portuguese. It was the Portuguese who first discovered a direct sea route to India. Portuguese sailor Vasco da Gama arrived at Calicut, an important seaport located on the southwest India on May 20, 1498 AD. King Zamarin, the local ruler, received him and bestowed on him certain privileges. After staying in India for a period of 3 months, Vasco da Gama returned with a rich cargo which he sold in the European markets at an exorbitant price, 60 times the cost of his voyage. Cargoes are spices and other things he took from India. Vasco da Gama. He came back to India for the second time in 1501 AD. He set up a trading factory at Kannanur with the establishment of trade links. Calicut, Kannanur, and Cochin emerged the significant Portuguese centers in India. The supremacy of Portuguese was established, and Francisco de Almeida was appointed as the first viceroy of the Portuguese possessions in India. His policy being centric to control the Indian Ocean was known as the Blue Water Policy. Alfonso de Albuquerque. Alfonso de Albuquerque, who replaced Almeida as a governor in 1509 AD and captured Goa from the Sultan of Bijapur in 1510 AD, is considered the real founder of the Portuguese power in India. Goa subsequently became the headquarters of the Portuguese settlements in India. Portuguese hold over the coastal areas and superiority in naval power helped them significantly. Nuno da Cunha. He left Lisbon for India and arrived at Kannanur in November 1529. He took charge of governorship and he was that very important governor. He transferred his capital to Goa in 1530 and acquired Dayu and Basin from Bahadur Shah of Gujarat. Next, the people of Holland, Dutch people, and they came to India. The people of Holland are called the Dutch. The Dutch were the next in the list to set their feet in India. Historically, the Dutch have been experts in sea trade. In 1602, the Dutch formed the United East India Company of the Netherlands. It got the permission from the Dutch government to trade in the East Indies, including India. The Dutch founded their first factory in Masulipattinam in Andhra Pradesh in 1605. Subsequently, they also established trading centers in various parts of India. Dutch Surat and Dutch Bengal were established in 1616 AD and 1627 AD respectively. The Dutch conquered Ceylon from the Portuguese in 1656 AD. Ceylon is now, at present now we'll call that as Sri Lanka. They also took the Portuguese forts on the Malabar coast in 1671 AD. The Dutch gradually became a potent force, capturing Nagapattinam near Madras from the Portuguese, thereby establishing their foothold in South India. In economic terms, they earned huge profit through business, monopolizing in black pepper and spices. The major Indian commodities traded by the Dutch were cotton, indigo, silk, rice, and opium. The Dutch in Tamil Nadu. The Portuguese, who established a control over Pulicat since 1502, were overthrown by the Dutch. In Pulicat, the Dutch built the fort Geldria in 1613. This fort was once the seat of Dutch power. They established their settlement at Pulicat in 1610, and diamonds were exported from here to the western countries. The other Dutch colonial forts and possessions were Nagapattinam, Punnaikayal, Port Nova, Kadalur, and Devanambattinam. The Danish. Danish refers to something from or related to Denmark. Denmark held colonial possessions in India for 225 years. The Danish colonies in India included the town of Tranquebar, Serampore in West Bengal, and Nicobar Islands. On March 17, 1616, the King of Denmark, Christian IV, issued a charter and created a Danish East India Company. They established settlement at Tranquebar, Tamil Nadu in 1620 and Serampore, Bengal in 1676. Serampore was their headquarters in India. They failed to strengthen themselves in India and they sold all the settlement in India to the British in 1845. The French. The French East India Company was formed in 1664 by Colbert, a minister of King Louis XIV. In 1667, a French expedition came to India under Francois Caron. France was the last European country to come India as traders. Caron founded the first French factory in India at Surat. In 1669, Markara founded second French factory at Masulipatinam by securing a patent from the Sultan of Golconda. Since the Portuguese were eliminated by the Dutch and the later extinguished by the English, the French were left to face the English for control over trade and territory. The French neglected trade and entangled themselves in wars with Indian and other European powers. The three Carnatic Wars ruined the French and rejuvenated the English to embark on a systematic territorial expansion in India.